They had to pull you out from your coffee. Java was once upon a time very popular in the IT industry. Today it's all about green tea. It's all about green tea and not Java any longer, because Java is too many tsunamis happen in that place. I have a topic which talks about talent. And therefore I would request, can we switch these lights off and focus the lights on my colleagues and friends who are here to listen. Because that's what talent is all about. Talent is not a focus on the entrepreneur. Talent is a focus which is building a scalable model. So can we just change this whole thought process of focus just on us as entrepreneurs and really look at it from a very different perspective. And I'd like to start with a little example, which all of us must have gone through. Courtship. When we were looking for a partner, and we had our eyes on somebody, we did all the right things to start a courtship. Great period. We enjoyed that period. We were all about bliss. Never looked at anything. It was that passion and blah, blah. Then we decided, let's come together, join hands, and formed a partnership. The first few years, honeymoon period, fantastic period. Oh, how come we never, as the years pass by, things begin to change, especially when the family starts to grow. And then how the family all works together makes a difference between the initial years of ecstasy and that. And that's true for any enterprise. Because if you don't look at talent, you don't look at those folks. We all focus so much towards our business strategy. We focus so much about our marketing strategy, focus so much on finance strategy. What about talent strategy? What about, we talk about our business model. For a moment, do we really look at, and have we looked at, the talent model? Because at the end of the day, that's what's going to make the difference. If we're talking, we talked this morning, everybody talked about scaling up, and that's what the topic is all about. How do you scale if you don't have the talent, or you don't have the right talent? We talked about value creation for our enterprise. Have you ever thought about the value creation for our employees? What is the percentage and what have we done in that space to create and look at it? And do you have strategies? Do you have the models? Do you have the processes to really create that value for your associates or employees or members, whatever you like? Because talent strategy is a very important part of a business strategy. A business strategy which does not have a talent strategy is only for a short term. If you're looking at a long term, you're looking at an engineering organization, entering enterprise, it's the people that will make the difference. And hence it's important. Talent strategy will flow from your vision, your values, your mission, and the culture that you create. You've got to be looking at what is my plan in terms of the organization plan, from a short-term and a long-term plan, and therefore, how do I fit my talent strategy from a short-term plan and a long-term plan? How do you start that? Is first to understand understand the talent you have, do an analysis of the talent you need, and where are the gaps, and how do you fill those gaps. Very often we just look at our own enterprise aspirations, our own aspirations, or where we want to take the organization. Very often we forget what's the aspirations of my associates or employees or members. Because unless and until both sync, you're going to struggle. And we've seen that a lot of times. So really looking at it from that perspective, and that, to me, the fundamental thing of a strategy, and I call it truly from a perspective and demonstrable perspective, is the top, which is to create that trust and that openness, which is coupled with passion. Once in order to build that trust with everybody across the organization, you have got to be open, you've got to be communicating. You've got to let them know what the big picture is. Because then they feel that I can be a part of this big picture. If you keep them in the dark, you'll always be in the dark of what your employees want to. So look at a strategy which is going to really work towards, as you grow as an organization, how are the people within the organization growing? Am I doing enough? Am I having conversations with them to really understand, and do we have a development plan for that? We all talk about development plans for our marketing strategy or product strategy or whatever products we have. Very often we miss it and we say, oh, that's an HR problem, they will solve it. No. As founders, as promoters, we need to appreciate that, take cognizance of that, and be focused on that. It is not just an HR problem. Today, human capital management is as important as financial capital management. We may think, oh, money is the key factor. But who will help us? How do you scale if you don't have the right people on board? Or you haven't developed the right people on board? And once you develop that plan, have you really looked at how you're going to enrich them? Something that works very well is a job rotation. Because then you get to have an appreciation of what's happening in another area. Otherwise, it's always, oh, I'm focused on this. And I've seen, during the little while that I've been in consultancy, the founders are focused in their area and won't let their other partner know what's happening. If that's the mindset, I can imagine what the mindset of the rest of the flow of the organization would be. Share information. You must and constantly share that information. Constantly have that interaction to really look at what's happening within there. We heard about that open communication, sharing those communications. If you want to really build a long, loyal and strong talent, ensure that you're just not talking work alone. You've got to be talking about other aspects of life. Because that brings, you understand the person well enough. If you don't understand your employees, you don't understand your people, how would you give the right development plans or the right ingredients to make them blossom? You cannot have a standard cookie implementation plan. Every person in the organization is a human being, remember that. It's an individual. And every individual needs different strokes. And if we can understand those strokes, I think you've got a winning formula. You cannot apply the same formula. What works for one will not work for the other. There has got to be that constant communication. There has got to be that feeling that you truly want that individual to grow, because that is how they will create value for the organization. If you create value for your employees, automatically they will create value for your organization, and not the other way around. In fact, in the last organization that I have been, we never talked about employees, associates. We always talked about members of the family. And we created a culture called the family culture. Because then, as a family, you share your joys and sorrows together. You're open, you communicate. And it certainly helped us. There was openness in what we did, transparency in what we did, and practiced what we did. How often we as parents listen to our kids. We think we know everything. But the real truth is today, the kids know a lot more than what we know. Do we recognize that? And the same happens in our organization. Every member in the organization, if you created the right culture and you created the right talent you have, can add value. No matter what level, no matter what the qualifications are, what they are. It's the nurturing that will make the difference. And I can just, these days, it's a big thing going on the net, and I'm sure some of you all, is this brilliant engineer in an automobile industry created a great car. And when it was time to roll it out, everybody applauded, wow, what a car. Super. And wanted to take it off the workshop. They realized the height of the car was a little too much, couldn't go through the door. Beautiful car, that was where it was. The leaders came in and other leaders, plant manager, everybody else. And some said, oh, we'll chip off the door a little bit and go. Some said, no, let's take the car, come some scratches on the top. We'll do a denting, painting, and we'll be fine. There was a little person, the security person, and he said, sir, can I suggest something? Then what do you know? What do you know? What can you suggest? And he said, maybe if you deflate the tire a bit, the height will come down and you could take the car out. And that is what really happened. So that, friends, don't underestimate your people. Make sure that you're looking at it and ensuring that each one is a valuable associate. You've got to look at ways. You need to look at job rotations, internal job postings. Because the perspective they will bring when they get onto a new, we heard that, when you bring a new fresher in, the amount of ideas, the things that they deliver is far greater. Same there when you rotate. Because one benefit you have is they understand the culture of the organization. They do bring a different perspective. And I'm not talking of rotation just with your people, but even the founders of the organization. And I have done that in all the enterprises that I have been a part of. My team, we rotated. Every 3 years I did rotate my team because I found there's a big value. Value for appreciation, otherwise there's always a conflict of my job, my contribution is far greater than yours. What do you know about it? When you get into those shoes, the appreciation and the perspective comes very differently. And that's what's going to make the difference. Realize this. We think, oh, I want an expert, I want that. That's fine. Create that domain knowledge, which will come with tenure. Retention is an important aspect. And therefore, if you talk about a talent strategy, which you publicize, communicate, the industry, the market would know that here's an enterprise, here's an organization which values people because they've got a strategy in place, they've got a model in place to attract, retain the best talent in the marketplace. And that's exactly what's going to make the difference. So the talent strategy has got to be looked and be a very integral part of any strategy. We do a lot of brainstorming on other strategies. How often do you do on a talent strategy? It has got to be a DNA of the organization. And if you don't focus on it as founders, as entrepreneurs, you're going to struggle when you scale. It cannot be, I'll look at it when I need to. Sure, create a roadmap. Create a roadmap just like your business plan which you have for 5 years, 10 years. What's my talent plan? And what are the milestones in between which will help me to see that I'm on the right track? And I'm sure a lot of you all have this problem that I've scaled up. Now I'm finding it difficult because I don't have the people. Because you didn't think of it. At that stage, the only thing was, how do I start? There's a big difference in creation of value versus valuation. Very often we get caught of focusing how do I raise the valuation of my enterprise rather than how do I do value creation. And people will help you do that value creation. How often have you all ever thought of this? Have you really looked at it from a perspective or been so immersed in where can I get my money, where can I get this? And you don't care and say, I'll pay bucks. I've seen a lot of enterprises, a lot of startups who think the best way to start up is pay big bucks. And I'm dealing with an entrepreneur who initially, just to attract talent, paid top of the line for talent, gave phenomenal raises year on year for 3 years, and today his problem is people. Because now he set that mindset and had believed that by paying big money, talent will stay. And he's losing that talent now because he did not work on the others. I'm not saying people don't work for money, but that's not the only criteria. There are a lot of factors. And one of the key factors for everyone, and I'm sure all of us have gone through this, how much does the company care for me? Has the company created the right environment, the right ecosystem, which makes me feel that I'm wanted, makes me feel that I can and expects me to contribute from a larger picture? That's what's really important. So the way I would look at it is, if you want, and I come back to my earlier thing, and you've seen happy marriages, you've got to care for every element, including your in-laws, because they play a major role in that partnership and prosperity from that perspective. So similarly, I think a lot of things will also be the same with respect to people. Look at it from a family perspective. Look at how you treat your family, and you treat them and help them grow, you will certainly be. I know I'm running out of time. My final thing, keep smiling and share that smile. Thank you very much.